Hello, I'm John C. Krieg. I'm a landscape architect. The name of this video is going to be The Noble Profession of Landscape Architecture 2, um, considered a sequel. What prompted it is upon viewing the first video, my wife told me that I left a lot of the good parts out, or at least the parts I've been driving her crazy with for the last 30 years. So go back, Jack, do it again. Um, First sentence in the last chapter of my career was when computer-aided drafting came along. Um, I have artistic tendencies. I don't particularly warm up to computers. I'm not very technical. Still have a flip phone. For years, I wrote my manuscripts longhand. It just it's just something about computers that I don't get. Well, early '80s, some civil engineering firms were all in on computer-aided graphics, storage and retrieval, sending files around. This is the way it's got to be. So we're having arguments. You know, you're sending us a hand drawn plan. What do you want us to do with it? It's just a picture. Well, okay. I guess I can embrace what was called AutoCAD. And it was a dinosaur at that time. It was AutoCAD 1. So admittedly, sales girl was smoking hot. And I guess that kind of rattled my judgment. And I invested $21,000 in equipment, figuring I'll just get an operator. I'll handle my plans and he'll handle that. Well, operators at that time were geeks. They didn't speak my language or quite possibly the language of anyone at that time. If I would have just went to the sales room, sat out at the computer and tried to operate this stuff, I would have realized that its limitations. But I didn't. So I'm invested in it. I was the first landscape architect in Phoenix to go CAD in 1986. And I was the first landscape architect in Phoenix to abandon CAD. Going to be a horse drawn, a hand drawn man to my dying days, and abandon CAD. So that's always followed me around. It's always been an issue. Now, the plans I drew were pretty intricate, especially in plan view. I fancy myself an artist, and I did, I feel, very graphically pleasing plans. However, clients felt that I was drawing pretty pictures. They didn't want all this detail. They just wanted anything that was cheaper. That's the way it went. But I just didn't do it. Um, my color renderings, there's a school of God. There were some bright colors, and I got criticized for it. And I said, "You idiots, you morons, you dopes." That's what they said about Van Gogh. Wasn't willing to abandon my artistic integrity, and I paid dearly for it. Okay, let's talk about what was happening in the field with my projects. I mentioned in the previous video how I didn't like how they were turning out, and I felt the owners were really stepping on the throats of the contractors, and it wasn't fair. Well, my solution to that was to become a contractor. I figured I'll go design build. I'll breathe life into my vision. I'll, I'll show them. Well, turns out that they showed me. I got registered. Excuse me. I got um, licensed in 7 categories. First with landscape architecture, then with swimming pools. Then every time a contractor bitched that I was stepping on his turf, I went out and got the license he had just to shut him up. Never did. Contractors are like old women. They're going to gossip, and that's just the way it is. So I have 7 licenses. including Class A general engineering. You can't go any higher. If I could get the bonding, I could build a hydroelectric facility. But contracting took a toll. I said in one of my writing videos, the contractors are the linebackers of the business world. They'll hit you harder than necessary because they can and because they enjoy doing it. So it put holes in my stomach. But anyways, I just really enjoyed it when I did pull a project off, especially a waterfall job. I was doing what only a handful of men get to do. And some of my projects, some of my installations were stunning. I was very proud of them. But I had a fatal flaw. I was so invested in my vision, what I wanted to see in the ground, that when an owner didn't want to pay that price, I just lowered my price just to do it. And that that pretty well led me straight into bankruptcy. So I went back to the drawing board. Literally, it's just a full-time landscape architect. Rose from the ashes again. Um, savings and loan scandal hits in 2008, and I'm getting tired of all this, anyways. So I started growing marijuana. Got good at it, and I'm not ashamed of that. I always thought the marijuana should be legal. I never cheated anyone. I was growing pot. I was knocking people on their ass, and I was proud of it. The county sheriff felt differently. Rolled me up in 2019. Took me away in handcuffs to a station, put me in leg chains. The kids in the holding tank thought I was some kind of far out old man sitting there at 68 years old. So there's been a few bumps in the road, but landscape architecture is a noble profession. We're holding the line. We're the environmentalists. We're the guys that are warning everybody about climate change and not being listened to. In this point in my career, I'm writing. I'm writing. I'm trying to get the message out there. So I guess what I'd like you to do is continue to check in at my website, https:// johnChristopherCreekBooks.com. And when the book comes out, my next one, Landscape Architecture, the Noble Profession, do me a favor and buy it. And if not, point people to my blog where I posted the final chapter. Uh, I blew it. It's the arc of a life, the life of a landscape architect. The Noble Profession is the final chapter. It's on my blog, dated today, March 12th, 2006. You can go there and get a much better presentation that you're getting here. Anyway, I'm going to close my tagline for these videos on landscape architecture by saying plants are what put the plant plants are what puts the landscape in landscape architecture. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Goodbye.